Hi, and welcome to the next webinar in our Plantae webinar series. My name is Jason Padilla, and I'm your technical host for today's webinar. Next slide, please. This series is brought to you today by Plantae, the open online community for plant scientists, powered by the American Society of Plant Biologists. I would like to give a special thank you to all our ASPB members who are attending today's webinar. Your ASPB membership dues help make this webinar possible. For any of you who have not yet joined ASPB, you can join today using the discount code presents10, and you will receive a 10% discount on your membership due. As ASPB members, you'll have access to all amazing ASPB resources, and you can learn more about all of them and all the opportunities that ASPB provide at aspb.org. Next slide, please. This webinar is recorded, and we also have recorded tons of other really insightful and useful webinars. So if you are looking for webinar talks like this, you can check out the Plantae YouTube channel, and you can find all the other exciting talks that we've recorded over the years. So make sure that you check those out. Next slide, please. Before we get started, I'll go over some housekeeping items to make sure that you get the most of your attendance of today's webinar. If you are experiencing technical difficulties, you can use the Q&A box, or you can email me directly at jpadilla@aspb.org, so you can let me know about those, and I will try to help you. If you have questions for our guest speakers, also use the Zoom Q&A box. During the Q&A, our presenter moderators will go over them and get those questions answered for you all. So as you kind of tune in and listen to our speakers and have questions, remember to put them in the Q&A box. If you have trouble connecting or need to leave the webinar early, as I mentioned, we are recording this webinar and it will be made available on our YouTube channel afterwards. And so you can check this out, and if you know a colleague that might find this conversation helpful, you can share the link afterwards. And so again, the YouTube channel that we have for Plantae has tons of resources, to be sure to check that out. And so with that said, I will now turn it over to our moderator for today's webinar, who will facilitate today's talk. Take it away, Plantae fellows.
Okay, thank you, Jason, for the introduction and all the help with the coordination. And most of all, thank you all for joining. Today's webinar will be moderated by me, I'm Katarina, and another 3 Plantae Fellows, May, Xavier, and Krishna. And today we'll be discussing on how to build healthy work-life balance as a plant scientist. And most of us probably know that plant work, plant research is very rewarding, but it's not without its challenges. Failed experiments, late night writing, and weekend microscopy sessions can make it easy to lose the sight on balance and well being, especially when combined with family and other personal obligations. So, in this webinar, we gathered scientists from diverse research fields as well as diverse career stages that will share their experiences and strategies on cultivating healthy work life balance in a world of plant science. Today's webinar will start with speakers and moderators' introductions. Then we'll continue with the speaker sessions, and we'll continue with Q&A session. You can write your questions in the Q&A box during the whole webinar, and we will finish with some concluding remarks. So to introduce today's amazing speakers, we have 4 speakers. We'll start with the first final year PhD student, Wojtek Schmidt, at the Institute of Experimental Botany of Czech Academy of Science. We'll then continue with the scientist working in the industry, Dr. Kevin Cope, plant physiology scientist at the Bayer Crop Science. And next we have Dr. Jessica Eriksson, junior group leader at the University of Tübingen. And finally, we will finish with Dr. Nanesh Nanjappa, senior scientist at the Indian Council of Agricultural Research. And to introduce your moderators for today, as I mentioned, I'm Katarina Kurtovic. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the Center Algatech of Institute of Microbiology in Czech Republic. We also have Dr. May Antoinette Marcado, a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Illinois. We have Xavier Ozavara, a PhD candidate at Virginia Tech, and finally Krishna Alamaru, PhD candidate at the University of Southern Queensland. Without further ado, we can start with a talk of our first speaker, Wojtek Schmidt. Wojtek, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Katarina, and thank all of you organizers for having me, and I'm excited to be here. And in the meantime, I will start sharing my screen. It should be on by now. So guys, do you see it?
Yep, we can see it. Thank you.
Nice, great. So again, my name is Wojtek Schmidt. I recently finished my PhD in the Charles University, and I'm working on at the Institute of Experimental Botany, Czech Academy of Sciences in Prague, where I'm now concluding my work. And soon I will be moving abroad for a postdoc. And I think I don't dare to somehow preach or give you some, the best tips how to master the work-life balance, because I don't think I have mastered it myself. But there are some stuff I think I'm quite satisfied with, and which work for me. So I guess I will just briefly state my background, what am I doing, what I'm interested in. Then I will just coin for a discussion that the concept of work-life balance might be a bit muddy, and then I will also touch on how we can utilize the flexibility of academic work to somehow improve our work-life balance, so to say. And also I will touch on what my hobbies give me and how they kind of feed back into my professional work. So the aspects of my work, I was working in a group of Jan Petrášek in the Institute of Experimental Botany in Czechia, and I was focusing on the evolutionary origins of auxin action, and I was mostly using streptophyte algae as models. And I guess the topic of my work is not interesting, or it was interesting for me, but it's not important for this webinar. So regarding my work, I will just say that I had a quite supportive boss, and that's what is one of the crucial aspects of the work part, which somehow influences the work-life balance. And from my personal life, the important points which also massively influence how we deal with our with the time in work, spent in work, and a part of work. I'm married, and I have no kids yet. So I think that once one has kids, it somehow massively shuffles with your priorities and how you deal with your free time, and also in the time when you are at work. And my main hobbies are I'm a landscape photographer, and I love to travel. I love to hike in the mountains for weeks. And besides that, I'm also a drummer in a folk metal band. So later on, I will touch on how these hobbies kind of work for me, and yeah. So I told you that I will somehow start with the fact that the work-life balance, especially in academia, is not really you can't make very strict boundaries between the work and life in academia. And when I was somehow Googling the background of work-life balance and how the term was coined, and what that actually means, I found like some articles arguing that some of these articles were arguing that you should make a very strict, clear-cut boundary between the work and your free or personal life. And there are some articles which state the very opposite, right? And I guess this is just very complicated, and it's also very different for everyone, especially that each of us is different and has different situations in their life. And when it comes to work-life balance in academia, I think there are three quite huge points which somehow influence the whole thing. So the first point is that the schedule of the work is ever changing in academia. You are adjusting your time for your experimental work, which is different. And then you are analyzing your data, you are writing, and this is also like a different story when it comes to dealing with your time, and also when you are teaching. So what I want to say here that not every day is the same in academic work, and this is kind of also an advantage that it is not static, and it's quite versatile, and it's actually what I like about the work in academical world. There is also a huge seasonal imbalance, and this is influenced by the experimental material you are working on, especially if you have like some field work or you are dependent on your model organism. Then when deadlines come, you have to write papers or your thesis, then you are massively invested into this stuff, and your work-life balance is massively disbalanced. And also when you change position from, I don't know, a PhD to postdoc or stuff like that, then also you are investing most of your time into that. And also when it comes to academia, the work follows you home. There is always something which occupies your mind, and it's always also connected with like uncertainty, because you are not you are waiting how the grant application will turn out, right? And you are not sure how you will be doing in the next years. So these are like the three points which kind of influence how we deal with our work-life balance. And as I said, that not every day is the same in academia. You can actually take advantage of it, because you are actually a master of your time. You can work on weekends, but for instance, when the material requires it. But also you can work other times, or you can make free time apart of the regular working days. So, for instance, when I was writing my thesis, what massively helped me is that I packed my stuff into my old car, and I went working outside, especially in the times where you are doing mostly computer work and you don't have to be physically present in the lab. And what I found that at home, I'm really not very productive. So what works for me is to really leave and go to a place which is quiet and distraction free. And I found that it works for me very well. And I'm also present in an environment where I can do one of my hobby, which is photography. So you can somehow blend the two together, being both productive and also somehow recharge creatively, for instance. So what I want to say that you can use the advantage of like the flexible academic work and find an environment where you feel productive, especially, for instance, in the cases where you have a computer-related work and you don't have to be physically present in the lab. And then finally, regarding my hobbies and how they somehow feed into my profession, and which motivate me or recharge me. I told you that I'm a photographer, so for me it's a creative outlet, and I can. It's a very meditative process when you are walking in a misty wood and finding a composition and trying to find a scene which is visually appealing to you. And also, you can be in the photographing outside. You can be also in the environments which are changing, and you are responding to the changes in light, or for instance, even the northern lights. And these are, in contrast, high adrenaline situations. So together, this is a creative outlet, and which gets you outdoors, and this is what kind of recharges me. I'm also very interested in traveling, which I do like in normal like holiday periods, which you have, and the trekking is like the traveling aspects, which are that you basically get to know new places, and I like to do like multi-day or even multi-week trips where you enter this survival mode, where your biggest priorities are the sleeping bag and the dinner, and it somehow forces you to a mode where you forget about like some issues related with or problems or stress related to work. And I can also do photography in there. Just a very quick note. I was present I visited Tajikistan this year, and we met some local farmers in there, which are living like in a very isolated valley, and they are working from 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. Very hard work, and I think if I will tell them something about work-life balance, they will laugh at me. So by traveling, it gives me, or it somehow calibrates somehow the how I perceive my issues, and they are still issues. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's quite healthy to get to know also stories of other people completely unrelated to academia. And why do I play an instrument, and why do I play in a band? Again, it's a creative outlet, and it also has like a great social aspect. And I think it's good to spend some time also with the people from outside with academia. So so basically, you also have some social life, because in the case of photography, I'm mostly alone. So the band gives a balance to it as well. So just to sum up, I told that balance is not a static thing, and based on the situations, different situations of different people, the balance might look a bit different to everyone. And also, academia offers a huge flexibility, so you can use it in your advantage when it comes to the hobbies you are doing. So that's pretty much it. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. Thanks again for inviting me.
Thank you, Wojtek. Can you please stop sharing your screen? Thank you. And the next speaker is Kevin. Kevin, the stage is yours.
All right, is my screen showing up? All right. Well, thank you, Wojtek, for your perspective. I'll try to provide alternate perspective and give you hopefully some tips to help you in your process of developing work-life balance. So just to introduce myself quickly, my academic journey or professional life is shown on the right, where I progressed through getting a Bachelor of Science in Plant Science and Biology from Utah State University, and then went on and got a PhD at the University of Wisconsin-Madison in cellular molecular biology. And that's where I fell in love with my current field of research, which is beneficial plant microbe interactions. And I was able to continue that at South Dakota State while doing a postdoc. that got terminated prematurely because of a faculty member moving, but I got to keep going in that research at Oak Ridge National Lab for another year. And then an opportunity came up to become a scientist in industry at Bayer, where I'm now working on biologicals and evaluating biostimulants for their ability to improve crop growth. Um, Also, while pursuing that professional career, I got involved with ASPB several years ago and became a member of the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. And also, I'm serving this year on the program committee. So I've really enjoyed the opportunity to be part of that community and to get to know many of you. So besides the professional aspect of my life, um, there's also the personal aspect. So I am a happily married man. I have a spouse. I'm a father of three children. I attend and serve in a church in my community. I have many hobbies. Probably my number one that I've done for the longest amount of time is gardening. Um, as I was entering the job market, the stress of it led me to weightlifting, where I could control, some aspect of my life and see progress without other external factors influencing my success. And just as a fun pastime, I love playing chess, play it almost every day. And similar to Votech, I love the outdoors, and in particular, taking my kids outdoors to go explore and see new things. So there's many aspects of my life that I have to balance, and I feel like I've done a pretty good job of it. So I'll try and share some of the tips and tricks that have helped me. So I wanted to just show this picture. If any of you have experience doing yoga, I'm not very good at it, but this is a position called Warrior Three. And when I have tried to do it before without much practice, almost every time I try it, within a couple seconds, I fall over or lose my balance and drop to the other foot. But if you look at this person who's doing this, I got it from a website of a person who demonstrates different yoga poses. And this guy is in this position very solid. He's holding it, everything's in balance, and it looks like he could do this for many minutes. Just for fun, I'd invite all of you after this seminar to just try it and see how difficult it is, and recognize that you're not going to be able to do this pose immediately. But if you took the time to practice and do it over and over and over, eventually you could get as good as this person. And that's really the point I wanted to get across, is that work-life balance is a skill that is developed over time as you work at it. And so some of the tips I'm going to share that have helped me will hopefully help you achieve this level of balance. And there's lots of things that we need to be balanced in. It's not just, I'm at work, I'm at home. As human beings, we're very complicated. We have aspects of our lives that are social, physical, professional, mental, spiritual, emotional. I mean, you can see this circle on the top right that demonstrates the different aspects of our lives. And balancing it all is not easy, but it is possible. So one thing I'd like to recommend is you don't have to do the one that I have shown here with the QR code, but it's a simple quiz you can go take where you can evaluate your work-life balance. By this group called Workman Success Systems. And it'll give you a score. I don't know how meaningful the score is, but if you implement some of the things that you learned today in this seminar, you could come and do this quiz. You could come back a year later and while implementing those different tips and tricks, see if you're doing better. It's just a way to quantify how you're doing. But some of the things that I would say are non-negotiables in helping you achieve work-life balance is prioritizing some of the physical needs that you have as a biological being. You need to sleep. So if you can prioritize getting greater than or equal to 7 hours of sleep per night, you'll be amazed at the difference that that'll make. I strive for 7 hours of sleep, but with three kids, a dog and a cat and a wife, I really get there, but I'm at least trying to, and usually I get at least over 6. Food. We all are plant scientists. We love studying plants, but guess what? We also need to eat them. So it's important that we prioritize eating healthy food, because when we do that, our bodies are in a situation where we can have the mental acuity that we need to perform. And lastly, exercise. I mentioned that I like weightlifting. I also enjoy being outdoors. So I have plenty of opportunities to exercise, and I found as I prioritize that aspect of my life, it provides me with more energy to go and do the work that I need to throughout the day and to be more efficient in doing it. So if you can make those non-negotiable priorities in your life, I can promise that as you implement them, they will help you become better at balancing your time. Also, as humans, we're highly social beings, and we really do need connection to thrive. So I hope all of you can figure out a community that you can be a part of, whether it's the plant science community, whether it's a religious community, whether it's whatever the community is, doesn't really matter. As long as you're finding ways to meaningfully connect with people who care about you and who you also care about, that will also strengthen you mentally and emotionally and socially, so that you're better prepared to be effective in balancing your time and perform at your best. And Votek talked a lot about hobbies, and I think that's a very important aspect as well. The way I approach hobbies isn't just as a break, but also a way to have meaningful accomplishments that I'm completely in control of. Um, and so if you can identify specific times after you've kind of worn yourself out with work, take a break, go pursue a hobby that's doing something that you love, and try to accomplish something meaningful as you do it. And it will give you a sense of accomplishment that sometimes you just can't get in your research as you encounter troubles and just struggle to overcome them. That's just how research is. And so the last slide I'll share is strategies to improve your work-life balance. This is a matrix that I came across called the Eisenhower matrix that can help you be more efficient in managing your time. There are lots of things we encounter in life that are urgent and things that are not urgent. We also encounter things that are important and other things that are not important. And where these intersect determines how much priority we should give to them. So if something is urgent and important, we should do it right now. And many of the things we have in our schedules or in our to-do list are urgent and important, and we should prioritize them. Sometimes, though, we have things that are important that we need to do, but they're not necessarily urgent. And so those are things that we should schedule to do in the next day, the next week, next month, whenever they need to be accomplished before they become too urgent or we miss a deadline, for example. If there's something that's urgent but not necessarily important, that's probably something that we should delegate. And so, and one thing I found that we can do in research is, as a PhD student, I was an avid mentor of undergraduate students. I would engage them in my research, train them appropriately so that they could become sufficiently successful in doing experiments that I asked them to do. And then I would give them enough trust to go and try it and do it. And they felt they felt enabled to be able to do things. And at the end of my PhD, I had 6 students included in my first author plant cell paper because I'd taken the time to delegate responsibilities that I didn't necessarily have to do, but that would give them an opportunity to develop professionally. And so sometimes your research doesn't always need to be envisioned as something that only you have to do. You can involve others in it, train them, and help them become a part of it, and delegate a lot of the responsibility so your time is freed up. And then finally, if there's things that you encounter that are not urgent and not important, do everything you can to eliminate them because they're just sucking away your time and preventing you from doing those things that are urgent and important and that will lead to your greatest success. And so as you're striving to do this, another thing I'd recommend is, and especially this is true in industry, is focusing on teamwork. When you work by yourself, you can only accomplish what you can accomplish, but when you work with others, you'll encounter this very real principle of synergy, where 1 + 1 = 3 or 4 or 5 or even more. And time and time again, as I've worked with teams at Bayer, I've been amazed at how much we accomplish in so much less time that I would have spent doing things by myself. So when possible, work in teams. I'd also encourage you to reward yourself for small wins. Once you complete an urgent or important task, take a short break, eat a treat, go for a walk, whatever it is that rewards you that you can do within 3 to 5 minutes. Kind of give you that little bit of pleasure, and then lock back in and continue doing additional urgent and important tasks so you can, by the end of the day, feel accomplished. And as you do that repeatedly, you're also going to experience big wins, whether it's a publication, getting your PhD, getting a grant, whatever it is, or getting a job in industry. Reward yourself for big wins. Go out to eat at your favorite restaurant, take a short weekend trip, go on a vacation, buy yourself something that you've been wanting for a while. As you reward yourself for working hard, you can kind of psychologically program yourself to focus on doing hard work because you know that at the end of that, there's going to be a reward for doing it. And so those are some principles that I've implemented as I've strived to find work-life balance. And I'll leave it there because there's probably a lot of other things that the other 2 panelists want to say. So at the end, I'll be happy to answer any questions that all of you have.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Jessica, you're next.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we
Yes,
So I'm Jessica Erickson, and I'm a group leader. I'm in the academic system, and I'm Canadian, but working in Germany, and I'm running a small research group we just started the last year. And I want to emphasize a couple things during my talk. The first one has already been touched on, and I think it's really interesting that we came up with the same, and it's this concept that balance changes with time and the point in your life. And I want to emphasize also why our paths are probably going to look different at the end. There. Yeah, so I think we can't really talk about work-life balance without talking about the work part, especially because I think we're all probably obsessed with plants in some way or another. And during my career, I was always motivated by scientific curiosity. So this took me to all kinds of different topics, actually. I started off doing a master's studying vascular patterning in Arabidopsis. And at that point in time, I was obsessed with this gene called FORT1. Then for my PhD, I moved on to chloroplast biology and the cool shape changes it makes when plants are under stress. And then I moved more into the plant pathogen direction, which I now pursue in my own research group, where we studied proteins that were injected by bacteria into plant cells, where they manipulate plant microtubules. And now I'm working as a group leader on the proteins that are secreted by the bacteria into the plant and what they do to the plant evoplast. So I really love my work, and it also brings me some balance. First, I do want to say that this looks quite nice, but there was one PhD attempt in here that I'll talk about in a minute, where I decided to prioritize something really other than work. So what I think work-life balance is actually about setting priorities that satisfy you personally. And I think this was also touched on already. And I kind of want to give you some examples of how my priorities have evolved over the years. So as I mentioned, I was first obsessed with FORT1. So during my master's time, it was FORT1 and then social life. So I was balancing these two things. I liked to go out with my friends and party or whatever. So I had these two things I balanced, and I did okay at that point. During my first PhD attempt, so I got a very nice scholarship to do my PhD in Canada from the major funding agency in Canada. And I realized quite quickly that this PhD was not fulfilling in any way. And at this point in time, I really chose to prioritize my mental health. And actually, I ended up giving back more than $100,000 to the funding agency and leaving that PhD position. So that's an extreme case where my life took a drastically different turn. So at that point, I almost left science. But I ended up getting hooked back in because I did find a PhD project that I liked at the end. And at that point in time, I paid then more attention to my mental health and my social life. And again, I was balancing these two things. And then something happened at the kind of the beginning of my PhD, which was this guy. And then again, priorities completely shifted. So then decisions about my life had to be about more than just myself and more than just my work. You can kind of take your kid to work with you. This is an example of when we tried to get him to fill tip boxes, and we just got an incredibly artistic version of that. But mostly you kind of have to shift your priorities. So my strategy involving work changed when I had this new factor, my family factor. I chose to do a series of local postdocs rather than moving because I wanted to be close to my family when my child was small. And the cool thing about some of the German funding agencies is that they actually pay attention to your situation. So you can say in these research grants, okay, I have a family, so my mobility is limited. can you fund me for the next 2 years, which is an example here, the Walter Benjamin program. And that's what I chose to do. And without this fellowship, I actually probably would have had to leave academia again because I wouldn't have been able to stay local and continue moving in the direction of getting my own research group. So that's one really cool and supportive thing about the German system. So now my child is a little bit older, priorities have evolved again, and science ultimately does require relocation if you want to be a professor. Excuse me. So my family is in Halle. My research group is in Tübingen. So my current reality is that I actually travel more than 1,200 kilometers per week and 14 hours. But you can find balance in this if you can reassess your priorities every week, for example. So my redefined work-life balance has been making the best decision I can at a given time for my family and my group, which I definitely consider my science, and then for myself. And I realize that I have to make those decisions and be okay with those decisions. And I'm not always good at that, but that's part of learning balance, I think. So as a disclaimer, this is not a template for how we should do academia necessarily. So what I really dislike is when people say, okay, if you want to do science, long distance commuting, absolutely possible. Jessica does it and she has a family. This really gets on my nerves because the reality is there are a really specific set of circumstances that have made this possible for me specifically. So one of them is that the institute I work at, the ZMBP, is incredibly flexible and understanding. So if you don't have flexibility in your work, you won't be able to do something like this. My son is now 11, so if he was 2 or 3, or if he needed me more, then I would not have done this either. And of course, I have unconditional support from my partner, and my son is also at the age where he now understands, and we can talk about these things. But I want to emphasize that this is temporary, so this is not a long-term solution by any means. So eventually we want to be at the same place at the same time. My husband is also in academia, so this is challenging, but we will get there. So again, I really want to emphasize that my story is not proof that you should sacrifice more. I think that's ridiculous, but I think it's proof that you need to find what works for you in your situation. One thing I think it's cool that comes from this is how my son seems to see me. So he asked me to share his drawings, actually. He sees me as a scientist doing cool stuff in the lab, and he sees my PhD student as somewhat aggressively killing bacteria with a hammer, but or he sees me as like a boss lady who's killing zombies, and my group is like some kind of Power Ranger type yeah, superhero group. So I hope that I'm a strong female role model for him, and that he takes this forward into his relationships. So I think that work-life balance requires a few things. So let's say in the academic system, I think you have to make an honest evaluation of your priorities and be okay with that evaluation, and that these will change over time. And I think strong support systems should not be underestimated. So institutional, or as I mentioned before, the funding agencies, they need to be involved in supporting us and our work-life balance, however we decide to construct this. And like the academic system is flexible to a certain extent, and that really helps. And we have to be willing to constantly reevaluate and adjust our situation based on what comes up in our lives. And of course, we have to make the right decisions for us and stop comparing ourselves to other people. And so, like, my balance is going to look a lot different than yours, and that's exactly how it should be, in my opinion. So that's where I'll end it, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for the great presentation. And finally, we have Dr. Ganesh.
You're muted, Ganesh.
My slides are visible now.
Yep.
Hello.
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah. Greetings from India. I'm extremely thankful to the ASPB and Plantae and also the moderators, and special thank to Krishna for inviting me. So I'm Ganesh Nanjappa, working as a senior scientist at Indian Council of Agriculture Research, JSSKVK Suttur. So I did my PhD from India, University of Agriculture Science, Bangalore, and ICRISAT. And I have very good postdoctoral experience at Agriculture, Agri-Food Canada, Winnipeg. I worked for more than 4 years there as a research scientist, and it was a great experience working on oats. And then I moved back to India as a Ramanujan Fellow to work on mulberry genomics. And finally, I took some break and joined as professor and dean to be in academics, then back to Krishi Vignan Kendra as a scientist. This is my brief introduction. So, all are wondering what is work-life balance, because in different professions, work-life balance is entirely different. If you take work-life balance in scientist, it's entirely different, and you should not be always be productive. If you look at it, work-life balance is about creating harmony and satisfaction in both professional and personal life. The harmony should exist, and it doesn't mean that it should have an equal balance, 50% of professional life and 50% of personal life. No, it's very unique to the person. So it is the ability to balance both professional work and personal life, staying competitive. It's very important to be competitive at professional work while maintaining a healthy and happy life at home, and also having sufficient leisure time. Sometimes we are highly ambitious in pursuing our career goals. This is very, very important. Unless we don't have a proper goals, we'll end up with nothing, especially in the form of scientist. We have to create our own goals, what will be the future and what we need to do that. But that reaching that goal should not be at the cost of losing important emotional and personal relationship throughout our life. Because as mentioned by previous speakers, when we have the family, when someone give birth to new babies and all, if we are not there in that moment, we may lose our personal life. And it's, as already mentioned, it's very unique to each person, depend on their goals. So we should not compare from one person to other person. To take an example, recent Nobel laureate Mary, she is having H index around 22 with the citations of more than 10,000. But if you look at other scientists who have got Nobel Prize, their citation is very high, plus the H index is more than 170, like that. So it depends on uniqueness to the person, how he or she balance her work life with the personal life. So the quality of the work matters when compared to the quantity. As mentioned previously, the planning and prioritizing the work is very important. Effective task, unless it is planned well, it leads to the distraction. Suppose the planning enhances the productivity and fosters a sense of control and clarity. We are organizing a Krishi Mela in our institute. Means it's a festival of where a lot of farmers meet. In this case, at our place, Mysore Suttur, this time we are expecting more than 12 lakh farmers, which will be done for 6 days. So if we don't plan properly, we'll end up with lose the number of farmers, and also there will be no clarity. For that purpose, we plan well in advance, 4 months, and we started already planting the plants and giving instruction and highly prioritizing what need to be done, which is more attractive. Usually this will be held in January, but the planning is very important for any kind of project. Unless you don't plan, it will end up episodically. And what will happen if you plan and prioritize? It helps to stay organized, and you can set boundaries instead of, suppose I've seen most of the scientists who are in mid-career, they accept for many reviews, they accept for review articles and so minutes of work, and they don't set the boundaries. Actually it helps, it leads to panic among them and create a lot of stress. I to myself, I have observed many times, I take up a lot of reviewing task and writing book chapters and other things. Unless you don't set boundaries, it will end up to nothing. So better to set boundaries and to know what is our expertise, to move in that, and that too without affecting our personal life. And also this also planning helps to better time management, and also it helps to understand the personal values, what should be there, and also it promotes better communication and collaboration with our other partners and also our teammates. It enhances accountability and motivation, because when we prioritize our plan or project, we know that who will be responsible and what to do be. And unless we don't plan, tomorrow if I go to office, I don't know what to do, then it will waste of a day. So it is better to plan earlier or before what will be the today priority and what I am going to do and what will be achieving over years, months, like this. And also this will reduce the stress. If you plan properly, most of the time it will reduce the stress. And one of the another important factor is burnout. Completely we lose our interest and will get strained unless there is a no proper plan and prioritize. And if you see the term given by Nobel laureate Venki Ramakrishnan, he always says science is a marathon and not a sprint. So we should keep on engaging in research and prioritize and plan. And this is not one day that we'll achieve everything and successfully and we burn all the energy. Not like that. It's a marathon. And based on my experience over the years, what I have seen generally in our countries and abroad, I am taking few examples, might be useful. And already I mentioned it's unique to the one person. Freedom to work independently. This is very, very essential, because in some of the labs or institute I've seen, this is completely lacking. They don't have the freedom. Once they get the project, they will be guided by the directors and other person, do that, do this. No. This freedom to work independently is very, very essential. And this I experienced at Agriculture Agri-Food Canada, where there's complete freedom to work independently. And non-hierarchical. Mainly, if you become so hierarchical, it distributes decision making across the team. So if it's very hierarchical, means the one person will dictate what to do. Instead of that, we should allow the teammates to take a decision, make a cross, making it across the team instead of concentrating at the top level. So this will enhance the organizational productivity, and also the responsibility will increase the scientist who is handling this, and they will become more creative, and this leads to faster decision making and more transparency. Another important thing is cultivate a life outside of the lab. We should have a good bonding or good life outside the lab. We should stop thinking about the work when we are coming outside the lab. Engage in non-work related activities definitely increases the renewed vigor. If you take 1 month time, 2 months time, come out of our lab, take a good vacation. When you go back to your lab, the increasing speed and the capability of working will increases. This already we have seen many cases, especially in CEOs functioning, or when they fail, they completely come out of their working environment, they focus on other things, and thereby they go back, and their energy to work independently will increase. Most of the time we focus on social well-being and physical well-being, professional well-being, but unfortunately in other countries financial well-being is also a major concern, because if you don't pay or if you don't get properly paid, so the amount of interest shown by the scientists and the work balance will not be proper. Hence, the financial well-being is very, very essential in my case. And also be relaxed with the deadlines. Don't accept so many tasks or multiple tasks where you end up with deadlines. And finally, suppose let me take few examples in writing book chapter, reviews, articles, and all. So finally, if you have the deadline, you don't have time, blindly we correct without knowing and give the input because of the pressure given by the reviewers. So it is better to accept and follow the deadlines and what to take based on our knowledge and not to compare others. Whatever we are happy, do the work which you like. And one more important thing nowadays we find in among the scientists, ego. This can negatively impact work-life balance by promoting a focus on self-interest or the team success. This is very important when you are being a leader or a head of the lab or in higher position. To create a very good work balance in the office, it's always essential to leave your ego outside, be with them, and seeing the success in them is seeing the success in you. This is very, very important. And always we, in my case, this is very much big problem because I always say yes, no. We have to learn to say no when you are not capable or when you are not having sufficient time to do that. Most of the cases will not say no, will end up with additional stress or burden. So this should be taken care. Another one more thing is, if you are more enthusiastic and if you are more pragmatic and if you are interested to take that work, and then there is no question of stopping you. It's the uniqueness in you, how you balance the work life with the personal life. Suppose if I want to complete some research work and expect some good results, if I am more energetic and I need to reach that goal with my own interest, then I am ready to work for 14 hours, 16 hours. But when you work for someone else forcibly, and if you don't like that work, you'll end up with stress. Any work which you don't like and you start tend to doing that work, it will end up with nothing. So it's better always choose a work which you like and where you are confident and you can spend good time with that. Finally, nowadays the main distraction what we are seeing among the children to elder scientists, this is madly is phone. Currently in India, I have two SIM, I will get 5 GB of data, always distraction. This is very, very important in all the case over the world. And what will this distraction lead to? This is a big addiction, and this increase when you expose more to the screen, the impact on sleep creates and anxiety always. Suppose I have submitted a paper in the morning. If I see at 5:30 when I woke up, the paper gets rejected, then I get anxiety, and then in turn to lower productivity and it's lead to stress. In the early morning, this is creating a problem. And also it's ruining family life. When you sit with a phone or mobile, you don't tend to attend or the family matters, or when your children comes near to you, will be focusing on phone only. So it's, and also the health also will suffers. To avoid all these things, we should schedule a proper time. That means when to check the email, Facebook, WhatsApp. Certain hours of time should be dedicated to the screen time. Then only it's better, so that we get a good
We
sleep
have
and
one more
good.
minute left. Sorry for the interruption. One more minute
Yeah.
left.
Yeah, sure, sure. And also the short breaks is very important throughout the day. And recharge your batteries also is very important. As already spoken by previous speakers, exercise, yoga, meditations, hobbies, going to spiritual places, meeting your loved ones, vacation with families, going to movies, and so on. So this you can see here, the most productive part where I got all these things is in agriculture Food Canada, where I was there for nearly 5 to 6 years. I was focusing on work balance with my family, and it was highly effective, and followed by some of the institute where I'm currently working, and some of the institute where I couldn't focus much. And this is where attending the conference with my friends, meeting them regularly, and this is our team. When I was working in Canada at Winnipeg, frequently we had discussion and distraction from the work, and I had sufficient time with my family the weekends. And finally, I would like to conclude that good decision come from experience, but experience come from bad decision. So this is life. So don't worry for doing any mistake. Go ahead and learn from them. So always, if you are doing a mistake, that's not the end of the life. So we can do the mistakes and learn from them and need to correct them. And thank you very much. And this you see the juggling of a beautiful young lady who is balancing. So this is where we have to balance both personal life and also the family life, professional life. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Can you please stop sharing the slides? Okay. And I will hand over to Xavier to start the Q&A session.
Can everyone hear me? My first question is for Kevin. Just based off of your, you went from academia to industry. How do you think your work-life balance has differed between those two kind of drastically different environments?
I think because of the principles I was following of prioritizing some of those non-negotiables and also making time for family and hobbies, it didn't actually change too much. What I did find is that the intensity of work at industry was a lot higher, but it's a lot more team-based work. And so I really embraced that team-based work and found that I was actually able to accomplish more with the same amount of time. And so I didn't find the transition too difficult. Now, I'm working at a very large company where there's not as much responsibility on one person, but there are startups, for example, where a lot more responsibility is placed on a person. And I can't speak to that. But yeah, for me, it was actually pretty decent transition, not too shocking.
Awesome. And then I'll follow with another question for Dr. Jessica. You mentioned that you left your first PhD program. Just curious about like what mindset did you have navigating that pretty big decision to make?
Yeah, I think it was a question of like wrong place, wrong time. So I was super ambitious and I landed in a lab where actually I arrived, there was no PhD project for me. It was kind of just like, here, go for it. Here's a new field. You don't know any of the techniques, make science. And for me, it wasn't very satisfying and I couldn't find my way. And for me, this was so frustrating that eventually I started to kind of deteriorate mentally because I couldn't achieve anything. And then after about 8 months, I kind of was like, why again am I doing this actually? And I mean, to me, everyone told me I was crazy to give back this NSERC scholarship. It was totally worth it. I have no regrets. And then I picked up a project that I actually liked, and so I could find some balance. Best decision I ever made. But it took 8 months to really realize that, okay, I have to quit now because this is getting ridiculous. It was a process, let's say.
Yeah, that's actually very inspiring because like some people would realize that they wanted to quit, but it's too late to go back. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I did not wait too long. But it was partially because I saw other people that had started a PhD in the same group, and it was not better for them at year 3, year 4. And I'm like, okay, there's no getting better here. So yeah.
So yeah, thank you. For Dr. Wojtek, how do you manage the pressure of deadlines when you're a PhD student and like the research expectations? Because like as grad students, we're time bound. So it's like, how do we make sure that we are meeting expectations and at the same time, we don't completely suffer mentally and there's enough work-life balance around it?
Well, it's a tough question. I think I will use again the example I used with my van and working in my car. Like I think that, or maybe I will start differently. I think that for me, it's quite okay working, many hours, like even 13, 16 hours, for the sake of some experiments to meet some expectations in terms of, getting the data and stuff like that. But then I really want to somehow have something in return. So basically, whenever I can, I just leave and do my own thing. Yeah. Not sure if I answered your question.
Oh yeah, that was like a good question. I know it's like very hard to like balance things. For Dr. Nanish, so as an established scientist with people working with you, how do you ensure that your team maintains a healthy balance, especially the young ones?
Yeah, it's a little tough question to answer because when we have a team, we have a deadline also in certain projects. Especially sometimes the deliveries are very quick, and we appreciate that. Sometimes when we don't get the proper delivery, so they need to work hard. And my simple suggestions for the youngsters is when you're doing PhD or postdocs, it's your time. So try to spend more time on your uh, professional and also personal. Once you have a mid-career and established scientist, you will have sufficient time to do that. But when your youngsters are there, sometimes they need to take a decision, and as a team, we will meet. And if they have any disparities or not working well, we guide them properly. So, and most of the time, what will happen in our lab is the elders will take care of the youngsters, because by looking at them, they try to learn what are the problems are there. Some are very much interesting, and they take their own interest, and they do come up with good results. But sometimes as we see when we're in, to be honest, when we go out in Canada or other countries, we spend a lot of time in vacation, trekking other hobbies. But when we are in India, I don't know, we try to spend less time on other activities. So that needs to be more of on the reverse side. I think I have answered your question that we definitely encourage them to do better work, and also we go for together as a vacation or a trip to break from that daily, daily activities or other things, so that they will come back with more vigor and try to solve that problem.
Thank you. So in the interest of time, we can only answer one question from the chat. Since multiple people here have children, there was a question about like, how do you get rid of the guilt of the time that you have to like give for your professional time instead for your children, because it takes a lot of energy and time and probably a lot of mental toll too. So that's open for anyone who has children.
So maybe I say something, but I think so. I think in my case, at least, I cannot completely get rid of the guilt. I mean, because I'm away for usually during the week from Monday to Friday, it's always there to a certain extent. But what I try to do is keep an open dialogue with my child about it now that he's older. And then I make sure that, okay, it's a priority that I'm there for these really important things. And I mean, if there's a point where he needs me, I try to make sure I'm there. And that helps, but I think it's really hard to get rid of all the guilt, even if you work a lot and you're in the same city. But that's just my perspective on it.
So to add to her, actually, I give my first preference to my family. I'm lucky enough they are there to always with me. wherever we travel or wherever we work. In that way, I am very lucky to have two girls who are already in 10th and 7th. So in one way, I give more importance to the family. So we are always with them. I don't think I have that guilt because since she was traveling, she will be missing many things. But especially when they are young, we have to be with them because the joyousness we may miss when they grow up and we cannot get it back. Thank you.
Kevin, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so I try to I do work in the same city as where my family is located, and one tip I try to do is just spend as little as 10 minutes a day with each of my kids, whether that's like playing a game of Uno, playing drawing a picture, or wrestling with them, whatever it is. I give each of them a little bit of time each day, and that just reinforces our parent-child relationship. And we have little routines, like when I put him to bed, I make sure I give him a back scratch and a kiss on the forehead, and my daughter will sing her a song. So these little things that I do reinforce the strength of the relationship. They take very little time, and allows me to, one, take time for myself and time with my wife, but also prioritize getting the work done that I need to.
Okay, I think that's all for the questions since we're a little over time.
Thank you so much to all our speakers for sharing such honest and insightful perspectives on maintaining the balance in science from student life to leadership and industry. So today's discussion reminded us that success in research is just not about excellence and publications, but also about taking care of ourselves, supporting our colleagues, and creating a healthy, sustainable work culture. A huge thanks to everyone who joined us today and engaged in this important conversation. And we hope we all continue to reflecting on what balance means to you and bring these ideas back to your own labs and workspaces. On behalf of Plantae Fellows and the American Society of Plant Biologists, thank you for being part of this session, and we look forward to seeing you in our future webinars. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Nice meeting you all.